all this new technology. Okay, I have 3:02. Meeting was supposed to start at 3 o'clock. That's my fault, my apologies. And let's call this meeting to order. And Cindy, if you would, do roll call, please.
Okay. Trustee Brittingham,
Here.
trustee Hammack,
Here.
trustee Johnson,
Here.
trustee Reed is absent. Trustee Studeville is absent. Vice Chairman Shattuck,
Here.
Chairman Pierce is absent. Okay.
Yeah, Chris
Yeah,
Pierce is the chair.
I'm just a trust. I'm
Oh,
trustee.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Sorry.
No,
I'm a
I'm
temp.
I'm
Good.
filling in for Chris since he's unable to attend.
Oh,
I'm just a trustee, Shattuck. That's it.
JAT. Okay, I guess we have enough for a quorum then. Opening invocation. Jeff, would you be? Thank you.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this meeting and for us to be together. We ask you to be with each of us in all our decision making. We ask you to do the good works for the city, for our county, for our community, all in your name, in Jesus' name, amen.
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 All right. That was item number 3. Item number 4 is consideration and action approval of minutes of the regular meeting of June 8th, 2020. And Cindy, you have those minutes. It was inadvertently, we didn't get those sent out in the packet, but we can still review them. And after y'all have reviewed the minutes and if y'all have any questions, comments, or anything after you review them, then we have a motion and a second. If there are. John, this would be a good time, when we're reviewing minutes or something like this, playing some music, like the Jeopardy music or have some streaming music in here.
I move that we accept the minutes as written.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. I guess, Cindy, if you'll take the roll.
Trustee Brittingham,
Aye.
trustee Johnson,
Aye.
trustee Shattuck,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Hammack,
Yes. Okay, motion is approved. Item number 5, review of industrial authority financial reports.
I can go over that for us. So just looking at the packet of the O2O account, income statements in there, total revenues just over 12,000, total expenses just over 13,000, with a net of negative 1,085.21 for it. Also in your packet is a breakdown of the claimable pulled cash, as well as the bank statement for the O2O account and balance sheet for the 110 account. So if there's any questions, let me know. Also, we're still working on the dashboard. And so Lisa and I have met. We have a first draft out. We're going to meet with Ann next to get some insight from her, and then we'll roll it out next meeting for us.
Awesome. Thank you. Any comments or questions? If none, let's move on to item number 6, consideration and action of the Durant Industrial Authority claims for June of 2020. Okay.
I think I think they're on the AP. It's showing for June, right?
Oh, okay. Yes, there will be more than that to finalize.
Okay.
So do we need to just table that till the next meeting, or we go ahead? We can prove what's there. Okay. All right. So you have any questions for Lisa regarding that? So what we're going to do is just approve what's provided to us. Well, whoever wants to make a motion, anybody?
Yeah, I move to approve the June 2020 claims that are provided in the packet.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Brittingham,
Aye.
trustee Johnson,
Aye.
trustee Shattuck,
Aye.
vice chairman Hammett,
Yes. Okay. Item number 7 is consider and take action on the appointment of secretary. Who would like to address that? Cindy, I know you're doing it for us this week or this month. John, Lisa, either one of y'all would like to address that?
Well, Cindy's doing it this month, but
Or yeah, this
that's
month.
it, right? So, I mean, I don't know. We'll provide somebody to do it, but it won't be Cindy on a
Okay.
regular basis. So once we get an administrative assistant position filled, then we'll probably put that person to do that. So if that's acceptable to the board, but it won't be Cindy on a full-time basis. So.
You have any comments for him?
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I think that's, yeah, I think we're good with that.
Cindy, thanks for your help.
So what we'll do on item number 7 is this, consider and take action on appointment of secretary. What we'll do is just table that since we don't have anybody to fill that role. And we'll put that on the agenda for next month. Item number 8, consider and take action on adoption of meeting date and time for the fiscal year 2020, 2021. And Lisa, I'm going to give you the floor to address that.
So we've had some conversations, Chris and I have had several conversations, and I've had others come to me. When there is something on the agenda for DIA that also has to go on the agenda for city council meeting, it would be helpful if our DIA meeting were held the week ahead of time. So maybe the first week of each month instead of the second week of the month. As it sits now, if there's something on the DIA agenda that also needs to meet the council agenda deadlines, I'm putting it on the council agenda ahead of time, whether or not I know whether it's going to pass. So if it's on there the week ahead of time, then maybe I do or do not need to put it on council agenda. It just takes out extra work if we can have our meeting ahead of time.
Okay.
So I guess what I'm recommending is, can we do it the first week, preferably on Monday or Tuesday of the first week of the month instead of the second week?
Okay, do y'all have any questions, comments for or against?
Anything on financials? We'll have financials in time.
We don't have them, they're a month behind now
Sure.
anyway, and I usually get them 2 weeks before the meeting
Okay.
on the financial reports.
Okay.
So we can take that as a recommendation from you, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Chris was good with it, but he preferred not Mondays because they're hectic. But it's,
so it sounds, I'm good with I'm good with changing it. I think that's a good idea. I think Tuesday would be a good date, the first Tuesday of the month, unless y'all see some issues with that. And if there's a conflict, we can always, what is it, 48 hours that we need to move the meeting about special, have a
special
special.
meetings.
Yeah, if for some reason there's an issue, then we can do a 48-hour notice.
Is the first week good with you? Cindy?
Vice Chairman, the only thing I wanted to bring up is on Mondays, you seem to be leaning towards Tuesdays, and that's good because we do hold municipal court in this room on Mondays. And one Monday a month, it starts at 4:30. I'm not sure how long these meetings usually last, but if you don't want to have to worry about that cutting into your time, I would suggest Tuesday.
Thank you.
That your recommendation?
First Tuesday. would be my
First
recommendation.
Tuesday beginning July 2020, is that correct?
Yes.
Or do we want to change that now?
No, wait a minute. Do we?
I
do we
mean, not
already have
20.
a schedule that we have to adhere to? When are we allowed to change our schedule?
You can change that schedule at any time. It just has to be filed with the beneficiary, the city clerk.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I said July. I apologize. I was thinking it was June, August. Is that what you want to start it next month or?
Yes. Well,
Okay,
let me ask, how far in advance do we have to file? 30 days or because we're under that mark if it is? Cindy?
It stays within my office because we're not a state or federal office.
Okay.
So that's fine.
Okay.
There was one filed at the end of 2019 that went for the calendar year of 2020.
Okay.
So we're really just amending, the last 4 months of
Okay.
2020. So yeah, as long as I get that in time and I'll post it. We have those on our website, on the city website, and I'll make that change there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
okay, so we have a recommendation to move the date to the first Tuesday of every month beginning August 2020. Do we have a motion to that effect?
I'll make a motion.
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Brittingham,
Aye.
trustee Johnson,
Aye.
trustee Shattuck,
Yes.
vice chairman Hammett.
Yes.
And that would be keeping the time of 3 p.m., correct?
Goodbye then.
Yeah, I don't
Can
think
you do us a huge favor and send a calendar invite out?
Yes, I can do that.
If not, I might show up on the second week.
I can do that.
Okay. Item number 9, consider and take action on hiring an attorney to revise the DIA bylaws. I know Chris brought that up, but I'm going to give Lisa the floor on that to discuss that and share her thoughts on that.
So we discussed, I think Chris's thinking was that he wants the bylaws for the DIA condensed. We've had several amendments over the last 15 or 20 years. He would like those condensed into one document that is searchable, a searchable PDF. Everything we have at this time is scanned in and not searchable. So that's what he is asking for. When we had this discussion last week, he and I, he was wanting to hire someone local to do this for us. My preference would be that someone with trust authority or economic development or municipality experience could do this for us. Typically, we use the Economic Development Law Center out of Oklahoma City that writes trust law, that writes economic development law. And I don't know whether we have to go out for requests for proposals or qualifications. No. Okay. So typically we've used Economic Development Law Center out of Oklahoma City for things like this. When we've asked for opinion on trust indenture or bylaws, that's who we've gone to. They're probably a bit pricier than someone here in town might be, but you're paying for the experience. So
Entertain any comments?
I guess I was a little confused on, as I was reading through, I guess the book that I got when I came on board. It looked like the bylaws really hasn't changed much. It's more the indenture itself would be a review. So now that's what we talked about before. Because I mean, the latest bylaws cover pretty much everything in detail from what I've read in here anyway.
right. That's a Chris question.
Okay.
He wants a searchable document and wants it all condensed. And I believe John brought it up last time that it wouldn't be the trust indenture that needs to be condensed or revised. It is actually the bylaws only.
My opinion is, since Chris brought it up last month and he's not here, that maybe we table it and let him have some input on this before we go
I
any
agree.
further.
Good idea.
I would agree.
Okay. Item number 9, we'll table to the next month agenda. Item number 10, consider and take action on easement request from Rural Water and Sewer District number 5. Lisa, you have the floor again.
Actually, I'm going to ask Marty to come up, if you would. Come on, Marty. So we've been approached by Rural Water 5. They've requested an easement across our property from UPS out across a piece of vacant property that we have at this time. Marty knows a little bit more about what they're wanting to do or what they're asking for. I will tell you that the easement legal description that we have shows that this is an easement across an existing easement for utilities. So we just would approve it and they would put their lines across the existing easement. But I'm not sure that that's what they're
Yeah,
asking
and
us
if it
for.
needs to change, they will.
They'll have to
address
come
that, and
back.
They'll have to come back at that point. What they're looking at is future expansion to the east of UPS. And that is their water service area. And so they would have the ability then to serve all the way east to McLean on Country Club and then south towards the bypass on McLean. Right now, there's not any water lines in that area. It makes the property more valuable and it gives them the ability to access their water lines that they need. They are going to be impeding on the land that you own title to, or at least that's the intention that we had discovered.
Yes.
But not in a position where it would ever make your land unusable. You can't build within 20 feet of the roadway anyway because of setback requirements and all those things. So it could still be underneath a parking lot or underneath the awning or something like that. So there's still usable property there for the purposes that any industry would probably use it for. It just wouldn't be usable to build a building on, which wouldn't be allowed in the first place. Does that make sense? There's a little extra easement for water line at this point, just for future development. And it might make your property more valuable if it becomes split off and you needed something on McLean that would have water access to it already. So it's not a bad idea.
So did you say there is an easement already there?
Well, there's always a right-of-way easement, right?
Okay.
60 foot. The way we saw this drawn in, and we're not surveyors at all, it appears to be within that already right-of-way
Okay.
easement, which doesn't make sense. He expects to get 20 feet south of that right-of-way easement. And then off McLean as well, an extra piece of easement for water line. That's not how I saw it drawn in, and so there's some verification going on.
Mhm.
If this legal description changes, he's got to come back to you anyway. So you're going to approve this one, and if this is what he needs and everything works out, then it's all fine. If this is not actually what he needs, the burden's on him to repair that and bring it back to you.
So this one is 20 feet off the roadway.
That's the intent, and I want to be clear about
Okay.
that. And I'm not a surveyor, but when we read this with our in-house people, it does not appear that that's what happened. Does that make sense?
And there's no other utilities there now?
No, I mean, in the right-of-way easement, there's
Okay.
availability for sewer, there's power, there's gas out in that area.
I
but
just don't want to make sure, we had the issue with
With the electrical
206,
and
yes,
sewer,
and we get
yes,
into
yes.
that again.
No,
Okay.
this would, matter of fact, this would help alleviate some of those problems. Because it would create another space for some of that to go into as well. So
Thank you.
I did not see any downside. If it was city property, I would recommend the council to approve it from my perspective, just so you.
Do we need anything to outline which boundary line? Because it just says running parallel to the boundary line. Do we need to say the north boundary line to be specific?
Again, that is drawn up and the wording comes from the surveyor. I mean, we don't have the liberty to change the wording. Does that make sense? Because then we could effectively change the easement without intent.
I would say if there's
I-
questions,
I struggle not having to survey. I mean, this is just an aerial is all that
And
is.
Oh, yeah, it's not actually drawn, but the legal description itself in the paragraph
Well, it's just 20 feet. I mean,
was
I've,
again, not designed by us, the wording of that. was
Sure.
not designed by us, so.
but I would feel more comfortable if it's just not specific. So, because they could, I mean, it's either the north boundary line or the south boundary line. All it says is parallel to the boundary line.
As determined by the east property.
It says east to west, which gets you there, but you still don't have which boundary line it is though.
But you're referring to the above described property. Does that change that? Because if it was on the
No.
north side of the roadway, it would be a different property listed there.
No, it could be the south side of our boundary line of our property.
Oh, I got
You
you.
see what I'm saying? It could be either one. So,
Again, I don't pretend to know.
Oh,
all about
sure,
legal.
sure.
Just- I know I spoke with Jeff Jackson, Rural Water 5. I know his intent in his mind, and I don't see any malice there. Now,
Oh,
during the
sure.
board
No,
meeting here,
absolutely.
and he was invited to the meeting today. I'm not sure. Maybe he got tied up doing something.
but I know I've dealt with rural water too on several things. And I mean, it's just kind of, hey, what does it need to be to get it? I mean,
It
For me, I have
does-
a problem with the easement itself. I think it just needs to be a little bit more tied in.
It does look like it's lacking one description
Absolutely.
from the north boundary line.
Yep.
Which may be why our map that was drawn in-house
Maybe why it didn't look like it's
isn't
drawn
accurate,
correctly.
yes.
Yeah,
And I'm guessing the north boundary line, we gotta just make sure that's the road and
Mm.
right.
where ours is at too, so.
What's y'all's desire to do on this today?
I just have one more question on that as well. When you're talking about the boundary line and you're talking about a road, a lot of times that boundary line, that road is measured from the middle of the road.
Yeah, it's not the curve.
Now, so it's 20,
South of the center, and that's a
20
sec-
feet or
I don't know.
Well, here it
the
says
width of the
20.
roadway. The easement's 20, but what's
Yes.
the width of the roadway we're talking about? That's a section line road too.
right.
So keep that in mind. I'd have to look it up. Generally,
Yeah.
roadways are 60 feet on my right of way.
Yeah.
And that's 30 from the center, if the center of the road is in the center of the
Right.
section, which is not always the case.
I just think it needs a little bit more description.
I
Brandon, on
agree.
that.
Do y'all want to table this or do you want to approve it subject to getting more defined description in the legal?
How soon do they need it? Can they wait?
I
3
would think
weeks?
that if it was that pressing, I would hope that someone would have been here today.
because
Because
really our
we
next
did-
meeting's
we
in
did
3 weeks
contact
now.
him last week, so,
Yeah, we come back in 3 weeks.
okay.
Yeah, I'd almost recommend tabling it and then bring it back in. That way we make sure it's right.
So we have a recommendation just to table it. Is that weird? Okay.
Yes.
Thanks, Marty.
Thank you.
Everybody in agreement? Okay.
Yes.
We will table item number 10 for more detailed legal description. Lisa, are you going to visit with them about that or who needs to
Yes,
talk to him?
so I contacted them last week again. Marty and I had looked over the map and discussed it. I've sent out another email to Jeff and no response yet. So that was late last week, though.
We want to help them. Well, I agree. I think we need more,
Okay.
more definition in the description. Item number 11, consider and take action on expending funds from the economic development sales tax to purchase real estate. Lisa, you're up again.
We've got to buy some property.
Yes, we do.
I'm unable to submit proposals for RFIs on a regular basis because our property doesn't meet qualifications, which, you know, we're not going to have something for every project. Every project's not going to be a fit for Durant, or we won't be a fit for them. But I would like to have a little bit more property to up our chances for that. I got with Ann Chen and talked to her about the 110 account, the economic development sales tax, which we know we can expend that for real estate purchase. We do have around $3 million that is not dedicated to anything at this time. We talked about what would be an appropriate amount for that. We want to leave the bulk of that money in there just in case we have a project come and we want to do some infrastructure or other type of incentives to bring a project here. So we don't want to use all of our money. In our discussions, she and I felt comfortable with somewhere around $1 million max. So what we would need is just an approval to expend up to whatever amount you feel comfortable with. Once we get that on the books, then Ann can go to City Council, ask for that budget amendment in that account. And my recommendation would be to appoint a committee from the DIA members to identify how we're going to go through this process and identify real estate that would be available for purchase, and then come back and make a recommendation to the DIA later about what purchase we should make.
Comments?
So we have, and forgive me for my ignorance on this, so we have to designate a portion of the funds
Yes.
before we can even go look at land?
That is the appropriate way, yes. We designate the money, make it available, and then we can come back once we identify property. Just makes it easier process to go through if we've already decided that we are willing to purchase property. Otherwise, you're out there spending a lot of time looking at property and, you don't know if you're going to.
Can we, I mean, from a I guess, authority. I think that's always kind of been the talk, right, of owning land. Can we go see what's out there and kind of come up with what it were before we just designate numbers or?
Okay, so what if we identify some property that's for sale?
And maybe John can
And
like
we
to
want-
speak to, I'm just learning here.
Really, all you're doing is, it's just like putting money in the budget. Right? That's what you're really doing. is saying-
We didn't have anything in that in our budget?
No, sir. So that's really what she's looking to do is to set aside money for purchase of property. So, because you really can't do anything until it's actually in your budget,
Sure,
right? So
sure.
it's- So it's just a number. I mean, you could put the whole amount in there, but only spend 500,000 or 50,000 or whatever that number is,
Okay.
right? So really, that's all she's looking to do is to appropriate money for possibly.
And then it's back here for approval
sir.
though.
Yes,
of-
sir. Yeah, this doesn't do anything about going to buy property.
Okay,
That's where that committee would come into place that I was talking about. If we could appoint a committee to look at what real estate is available locally and then come back and make a recommendation about what to purchase. Because we have to budget the money or appropriate the money to spend on the real estate. That goes back to that, anything we spend out of that account has to be approved by city council as well before we can do it. And it just slows down that process. I'd rather not miss out on an opportunity because we're waiting 3 weeks for a new meeting to come along, you know?
Additional comments, thoughts on this? It's just kind of like putting in a line item, even though we have that money there, we're setting it up in the event that, if it's more than $1 million, we'll bring that recommendation back, whoever's on the committee. If it's less than, then we've already got the money designated for that. That way we know we can go out there and bring it back for a motion or discussion in the DIA and then see if it gets approved to purchase that particular property that may be out there. I think that's what your intent was, right, Lisa?
Yes,
So basically, it's just a budget amendment.
yes.
yeah, that helps. Just, I didn't know, like, when I first read it, I thought it was more, hey, we're moving this over and here we go. So if we can, I think, do the motion as a budget amendment of that, I think is fine with me.
So it'd have to be a designated amount. It wouldn't be a not to exceed amount
Correct, because you're making a budget
because
amendment.
you're actually having to make the amendment.
Okay, that's your recommendation. Do we have a motion on the floor?
I make a motion that we do a budget amendment to move $1 million for possible future purchases of land.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. And then I'll address the committee after we have a roll call for the vote.
Okay, trustee Brittingham,
Aye.
trustee Johnson,
Aye.
trustee Shattuck,
Yes.
vice chairman Hammock.
Yes. Motion passes. Okay, the other thing, Lisa, you mentioned that we want to set up a committee for us before we even consider doing anything else, a committee from the DIA to go out and see what we can find.
Correct.
Any volunteers?
This will be the committee that would make the recommendation to the DIA on what property to purchase.
I'd be happy to sit in on that.
Yeah, I'll be happy to help as well.
Do we have
Probably.
one more?
We need 3, don't we?
I'll sit in if you want.
Good job. I was taught many years ago to not. volunteer.
I will.
Were you over there twisting his arm?
No, he
Let's
wasn't.
see what's in there.
I'll do it.
And that's the question, is how many you think you need?
Just 3 typically.
That,
Needs to stay under that quorum, correct?
yes. So we don't need to vote on that, do we?
No,
No,
the
that's just
committees
a-
are appointed.
Committees are appointed and so Jeff, Brandon and I will be on that committee and we'll get together and see what we can come up with and maybe have some information at the next meeting, let you know, or see how it proceeds from here.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Item number 12, consider and take action on selection of a vendor for business retention and expansion CRM services. Lisa, you have the floor again.
So when I started this job, we had a good discussion about the need for business retention and expansion activities in our community. DIA has done a lot over the years to recruit new industry, new jobs, But there's really not anything that I can find that we've done to retain those jobs or to identify if there are needs or red flags that local industry has. So it's something that we talked about, we wanted to implement. And this RFP went out as a result of a motion that was approved by the DIA to put an RFP out for software for the BRE program. We did receive 6 proposals, and of those 6, there was only one vendor who had experience in business retention and expansion for economic developers. The company was founded by economic developers. All of their materials and software were created using input from economic developers. I will tell you this, the company name is Blaine Canada Limited. And the other 5 proposals that we received, it was all companies who wanted to build the software from the beginning and work with us for months on end to determine what we would need. We would have to determine what our interview questions would be. We would have to let them know what constitutes a red flag or how to put the reports together and such. This company, which you have a copy of the proposal in front of you, they have all that ready to go right out of the box. The product would cost $5,700 to get it started. We have unlimited licenses, which means unlimited users on that. I do plan to collaborate with other partners in the community, the Main Street Organization, the Chamber of Commerce, our local education providers. We would work to build the relationships within our local industry, conduct regular interviews, do regular reporting. It would help me with reporting to the DIA as well as to the city council. It would throw out any red flag issues, which one that we kind of hear is existing anyway is the need for employees. We need to recruit more employees to our area. So red flags like that would come up. We could also filter results for reports. Maybe I want to know, do we have any industry that has mentioned railroad tracks in their interviews? I could do a report just on that, and it would give me a list of every comment that was documented about railroad tracks within all the interviews we had conducted. So it's a very useful tool. This could be up and running within a month or so, whereas everything else, it would take at least 6 months or a year to get something started. And a lot of work on my end, developing surveys and interview questions and things like that. So this one is the one that made the most sense. And again, it's $5,700 to start. I believe it's $2,900 a year after that for maintenance. All your training is provided for free. Do you have any questions?
Have you checked references on here, these other communities?
Yes, I've actually talked to other communities. In the economic development world, this is one of the most well-known companies because it was the first to develop this type of software, and it was developed by economic developers. This is actually the platform that was used by the state of Oklahoma a few years back. And they said that it provided good information. It was a good program to use, but they tried to implement it statewide and couldn't get local people to use the platform and input the data because it's like anything else. It's only the data that comes out of it's only as good as the data that's put in it, and you have to use it, which I'll be using it.
So you mentioned training. I saw somewhere in here where it talked about training was like an additional $2,200.
If you want specialized training in your town, they will come to our site right here at City Council and train all of us if you want, and that's the additional cost.
So that's for
everything else is
on-site training.
That's on-site training. We won't be needing that. They have the webinars and they have recordings, things like that.
Assuming this is approved and passed and we didn't do the on-site training, but later on we needed it,
They could come later and do it.
that's not a one and done.
No.
A year from now, if we thought we needed it, then you can do that.
Yep.
All right. Comments or questions? Any additional comments for Lisa? This is what you recommend.
Any type of contract? Is it just an annual contract? or
Annual.
Annual
It's
contract.
just annual.
That was gonna
And I
be my
believe that says
question.
that in there. I remember reading that in the RFP this morning when I was going back through it.
And
So-
what, go ahead.
Well, what type of reports would it provide, like for this meeting, right, for you, that you could share with us?
Depends on what I ask it to run. I might ask it, I don't know, what's turnover rate? And I'm making some assumptions here because I've
Mhm.
not looked at the interview questions. But what if I want to know what's the average turnover rate for all of the industries that we have interviewed this month or this year? And it might be able to tell me something like that. You know, are there any companies that are looking at expansion over the next 6 months or year? I could run a report on that. I will tell you on business retention and expansion, those are very confidential interviews. So reports that would be given would be aggregate data. So it would be this many companies are having issue with this. It wouldn't be naming anybody. I mean, you wouldn't want me to come into a
Sure.
live stream meeting and say, First United's having a problem with this. I mean, so it'll be aggregate data. It won't be, I won't add any company names with reports.
And is it like mobile device friendly?
Yes.
Can you input on that?
Yes. I believe that was a requirement in the proposal.
Yeah, I think it needs to be.
You had mentioned $5,700. Is it 57 or 52?
I'm sorry,
On page 9.
does it say 50? You're right, 52. Sorry about that.
52.
Yes. And then it would be the additional 2,900 in future years. And going back to the confidentiality statements, so when I said that there would be unlimited users, we would limit that locally. So we would have community partners that would be helping input that data. I would have a very small team that would be working on that and not disclosing information. It wouldn't be something where everybody that asks would get a login so they could go look at confidential information. I mean, when we have interviews with you know, plant managers and HR people, I want them to feel comfortable enough and trust me enough that they know I'm not going to go out and share their confidential information with other people. So something like that, it wouldn't be where, you know, probably wouldn't have DIA members with, you know, login access for stuff like that. It would be something that we would keep internal. I would assume that our city manager would be one of those with a login if he wanted it. And then myself and probably one or two other people would have a login. Other than that, it would be, you know, others that would be providing reports. So maybe they're helping us with interviews and they're inputting the data.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be good for several, whether it be chair, vice chair, whatever, to have that access as well on this board.
This won't have a bearing right now, but it says population less than 19,000, the DIA qualifies for the small market bundle licensing. What are the thresholds? Do you know? I mean, it may or may not matter, but you know, next year, if we grow quite a bit, then it's going to increase the cost if we're over a certain population, or 5 years from now, we don't know. Those are hypotheticals, but do you know anything?
I do
about that?
not know that.
Okay, that's fine. I was just curious. It's not a make or break for me. I just noticed that we're considered a small market bundle discount or small market bundle. And we get a discount.
So you mentioned cities. Could cities share any of this cost with us as well, if the city's going to use it with us?
It wouldn't be that they're using it necessarily. I'm just saying that I assume that, I guess I was thinking at it from okay, well, if you're in a job, your immediate supervisor typically has access to your stuff. I could go out and get hit by a car tonight and die.
Oh, sure.
Somebody's got to have access to the login, right? I guess that's where my mind was thinking about something like that.
No, I mean, I think it's a win-win. I think it's good to have with your kind of dual roles, right, for it as well. So.
And I think we're all on the same page that we're here to benefit the community, right? Even the DIA's trusted indenture says that the beneficiary is the city of Durant. So, I mean, it's all kind of, to me, it's all interrelated anyways. So.
Any other additional comments, questions for Lisa? And that's your recommendation.
Yes.
This would go into effect, assuming that it's approved, it'd go into effect when you would reach out to them and then
I will go
contract.
call them as soon as this meeting's over and get a contract started.
Okay.
This is something we've been needing for years.
Data is always good. It sometimes opens your eyes to something else and you go, oh, I didn't realize that. Or we need to adjust and change and do something different.
Yeah, I think it's just, I mean, these are great softwares and I mean, we have a CRM system as well, which it's funny. Some of these comments we're kind of dogging it a little bit on Salesforce, but anyway, I think it's just, it's only as good though as the information in it. And I think that's what we got to make sure it's a plan in place to, hey, how many businesses a month are we going to go interview? What are we going to do there? Because I think that's the only way to bring out the true data for us. And so that's what I'd like to see on top of, hey, if we do this, would be kind of a plan in place of how we're going to get the information to put in it as well.
Stay tuned, our strategic plan next month.
Good.
Saying that, then I'll make a motion that we approve.
I have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Brittingham,
Aye.
trustee Johnson,
Aye.
trustee Shattuck,
Aye.
vice chairman Hammack.
Yes. Okay, that takes care of number 12. Number 13 is information items, the executive director's report.
That's all in your,
Yeah.
if you have questions, I'll answer those.
Y'all have had an opportunity to look at it. Do y'all have any questions, comments for Lisa at this time?
The only thing I have is just, you just mentioned the strategic plan on it. I mean, I think it would be good to get it out early. I really don't want to see it probably for the first time to approve it at the meeting. And so I would like to get it out early, let us review, go over it
Right.
to discuss.
And I encourage each of you to come by and chat with me. I've had a few members that have come by and expressed their opinions about, what we should be working on in the future. So I encourage you to do that early.
When will it be? Because it mentions in here to be looked at or adoption in August.
Yeah, so it's something I've been working on. Chris and I went over it last week. I've shared it with John as well, and gotten some input. Had a couple other people look at it. So it's kind of firmed up right now, but there's still room to make changes.
So can you email it out to us this week?
Yeah, I'll email it out to y'all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'd
Thank
rather
you.
have an open conversation than a bunch of emails back, though. If y'all could do that for me, I'll email it out and either pick up the phone and call me, or let's schedule a time instead of emailing back and forth.
No, absolutely.
It will work better as an open conversation. So.
Okay. Item B on number 13B is the Choctaw Nation Community Partner Economic Report. I think that's in your packet. Lisa, do you have any comments? Anybody have any comments on that or questions about it? It's there for your review. Who sent this to us?
Mike Southard from Choctaw Nation Economic Development Department. He sends it from time to time, and we've just included it in our report when it comes in.
Comments or questions about that? Item B, 13B. If there are none, let's move on to item 13C. It's the appointment of a Chamber of Commerce representative to the Durant Industrial Authority seat. On the last page of your packet, you can see there's a letter from Matt Davison, the 2020 president of the Durant Area Chamber of Commerce. I'm not going to read it verbatim, but y'all can take a look at that. They are recommending that Edwin Booth fill the seat that is being vacated by Janet Reed to serve as the chamber representative.
He'll be good.
Now that needs a motion, does it not? Or is that just,
I don't believe that needs a
that's a
motion,
setting
correct, John?
position, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
they already have the position. They designate. who
They
sits.
designate, okay. So let the record show that the letter included in the packet designates Edwin Booth as the Chamber of Commerce representative to set in on the DIA, and I would assume that he will begin next month in August.
Said August, I think.
Okay, very good. Item number 14, new business, 14A, in accordance with the Open Meeting Act. New business is defined as any matter not known about or which could not have been reasonably foreseen prior to the time of posting the agenda. Does anybody have any new business? Okay. Since there is no new business, the only item left is adjournment. Item number 15, anybody want to make that motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Record the votes, please.
Trustee Brittingham,
Aye.
trustee Johnson,
Aye.
trustee Shattuck,
Aye.
vice chairman Hammack.
Yes. All right, thank y'all very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.